Why the price of insulin and other medications are so high. It's freaking evil, man. It's evil. I'm going to read this to you from this article from a guy that I follow, and you should too. This is nuts. And you got to share this because you got to send it to your Congress people. This is insane. All right, take insulin. In 2013, Sanofi gave a 2 to 4% kickback to PBMs. And we're going to go into what a PBM here is in just a second. I just want to give you a little bit of just gravy right out front. So you say, man, that's nuts. I don't even know what that is, but I want to learn because I almost did not even read this article. I'm so glad I did. So again, 2013, I don't know what Sanofi is, but it gave a 2.4% kickback to PBMs to prefer their product to customers. In 2018, that number went up to 56%. So it went from 2 to, we'll say 3 to 56% kickback to PBMs to basically prefer their own products over others. In other words, more than half of the price of insulin is going to a middleman who does nothing but push paper around. The many bad practices of PBMs, again, we're going to go into PBMs here in just a second, are legendary. They often force customers to buy more expensive drugs over the generic counterparts, likely because they get kickbacks. This ends up making this obscure group of firms, the PBMs, a lot of money. In fact, the combined revenue of the top 3 PBMs, who comprise just a small part of the U.S. health system, is larger than the entire amount that France spends on all its medical care for its entire population. Did you hear that? The combined revenue of the top 3 PBMs, which comprise just a small part of the U.S. healthcare system, makes more money than the entirety that France spends on its entire medical system. So let's dive into what a PBM is here, because this is where I got this article from my man Matt Stoller from Big. I'm not sure what Big actually stands for, but love this guy, man. Love this guy. Huge. You got to read this. You got to subscribe. I think it's like $5 a month or something like that. This guy, I can't believe there's only. Let me actually refresh and see if there's any more likes, because this is only. Did it refresh? It's still refresh. So we went from 55 hearts to only 22 comments. Please tell me there's more. All right, too bad, because this is nuts. All right. So today I'm writing about what happens when a monopolist gets mad. In this case, it's health giant Cigna taking revenge on rural pharmacies and patients after the Biden administration tried to slightly reduce the firm's profits from Medicare prescription drugs. All right, we're going to go down here. I don't care about those guys. I'm going to share with you something real quick. This is crazy, man. We're going to go down here right now. Hold on right here. A few months ago, the Biden administration put out a rule to regulate the pharmacy benefit management business. Pharmacy benefit managers, PBM, that's pharmacy benefit managers, which are an opaque but massive part in the pharmaceutical drug supply chain. PBMs handle the drug benefit piece of the insurance plans. They maintain a list of drugs for insurance companies, they negotiate drug prices, and they manage reimbursements to pharmacies. The original idea behind PBMs is that they would be able to get enough bargaining power by represent multiple insurance companies that they can negotiate to bring down prices. And accumulate bargaining power they did, merging until 3 PBMs control 80% of the insurance market. Now remember, those 3 PBMs are small in the overall U.S. health system, but their revenue combined those 3 is more than what they pay in France for their entire health industry. Ironically, if not, they are also vertically integrated with insurance companies and drugstore chains. The top 3 PBM are owned by CVS, United, and Cigna. So the PBMs, they were going to basically negotiate with the insurance companies to do what? To keep down prices. But now they're owned by CVS of Big Pharma, United Health, and Cigna, and they have more revenue that they get than anybody else. And I talked about how insulin went up from 2 to 4% kickbacks to 56% refunds or rebates. Isn't that crazy? So let's keep reading. Unfortunately, because of an exemption from an anti-kickback laws, PBMs don't use their bargaining power to actually reduce consumer prices. In fact, we've seen insulin go through the roof. Instead, they force pharmaceutical firms to compete over who will give the PBM the biggest kickback, a rebate. You hear that? An exemption from anti-kickback laws, almost like an exemption from you know what, if you know what I'm saying, liability. PBMs don't use their bargaining power to reduce consumer prices. They force pharmaceutical firms to compete over who will give the PBM the biggest kickback. It gets worse. PBMs all own mail order pharmacies, and they are increasingly mandating that their clients use those. Moreover, PBMs now have so much power they're able to claw back money randomly from pharmacies months after a drug was dispensed, using something called a direct and indirect remuneration fee. DIR fees are only used for Medicare plans, but that's still 37% of the market. For independent pharmacies, DIR fees are impossible to plan for. They are opaque and they end up raising prices for consumers. And how do you direct and indirect remuneration fee? I can't say that all of a sudden. I don't even know how to say it. Can you imagine? You're like, dude, 3 months ago you gave out this drug and now you got to pay us our DIR back. PBMs are particularly bad for independent pharmacies, who are a critical lifeline in many underserved parts of America. 77% of independent pharmacies serve communities with fewer than 50,000 people. In these places, the independent pharmacist often is a healthcare infrastructure. All right. The amount that PBMs have been reimbursing these pharmacists have gone down in years, to the point that many are losing money depending on the medicine they're filling. To put it differently, it's the equivalent of Amazon raising fees on third-party sellers, your old buddy Josh, or Tyson cutting the amount they pay the cattle ranchers who grow. All right, so when I was in Shenandoah Valley, I'll never forget, when we moved there's all these farmers, dairy cow farmers. They were part of the Dairy Farmers Association. But there's a lot of turkey and chicken. So poultry, Rockingham County, Virginia is poultry capital of the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And you talk to some of these farmers, and they would grow for Tyson or Cargill. And I'm drawing another one. I'm drawing Pilgrim's Pride. And basically is literally say, hey, we're going to finance your operation. You grow for us, and we're going to give you whatever we feel like giving you. It was crazy. So you had these huge operations, turkey, poultry. They grow specifically and exclusively for one of those big companies. And the big company, they were basically independent contractors, almost sharecroppers. It was on their own land, but they couldn't just say, I don't want to do this. It was the whole thing was nuts. So if Cargill or Tyson said, no, we're not going to pay you, $1 a head, we're only going to pay you 75 cents a head, what could you do? It was crazy. All right, anyway. A few months ago, Biden proposed eliminating most DIR fees, which again are Medicare for prescription drug plans. And that's 37% of the business, which would get rid of a good but not critical profit center for giant PBMs. It looked like a nice win for the anti-monopolist, patients, and independent pharmacies. Last week, however, a contact passed me the new contract from Express Scripts, the giant PBM owned by Cigna. All right, let's see what that said. Cigna has about a quarter of the PBM market, which means that 1 of every 4 people who goes to a pharmacy gets drugs is using Cigna. All right. Now, some place like Georgia, 50% of the Medicare drug plans are Cigna plans. As one pharmacist put it to me, if you don't sign these contracts, then 1/3 of the patients won't come to me because they won't be able to get their services through their insurance benefits. In other words, pharmacists can't turn away 1/3 of the people come to the store, so they tend to accept whatever the hell Cigna offers. Of course, as it turns out, Cigna's offers to pharmacists has just got a lot worse. PBM pricing is insanely weird and complex, so I'll try to explain it to you. The story is Express Scripts. It's the short story. Express Scripts is cutting revenue to partners so significantly that any independent pharmacist who accepts it will now lose money going forward on Express Scripts customers. And he goes into the contract. I'll let you look at it for yourself if you want. I'll put a link in the show. What kind of jumped at me was, should you wish to decline participation, you may do so within the time allotted under your pharmacy provider agreement via email. Well, it turns out that was only 10 days. You had 10 days to decline this, or else you're automatically enrolled in it. All right. And so they go into the other part of the contract, which I think is incredibly interesting. And then Matt links to a YouTube video that you can watch, or some kind of video, maybe it's not YouTube, on the language of pharma pricing. Pharmacists buy branded drugs at a rate based on something called the average wholesale price, AWP, minus roughly 20%. To make a profit selling a branded drug, a pharmacist needs to be reimbursed at a higher rate than that amount. Under the new contract, for a prescription of less than 30 days, you can see right there, AWP, minus 26%. It used to be minus 20%. Under the new contract, pharmacists will now get the average wholesale price minus 26.3%. All right, let's see. And for filling one for more than 30 days, they'll get the average wholesale price minus 31%. And then here you got ones, AWP minus 57%. It's crazy. All right. As a specific example, oh yeah, by the way, in case you're wondering why, oh yeah, right here. In other words, every branded drug through Express Scripts means that independent pharmacist now loses money. How? Because a pharmacist pays, they buy branded drugs at AWP, the average wholesale price, minus 20%. But now the prescription of less than 30 days, the pharmacist will get the average wholesale price minus 26.3%. So they buy it $100 at the average price minus 20%. So they buy it for $80 and they're selling it for $74. And then look at this. The average wholesale price for generics, 57%. It's great. Now that's branded drugs. I don't know what they pay generics, but that's crazy. Now who gets that money? As a specific example, let's see. We got an example right here. As a specific example, filling one prescription of Trelegy Ellipta, which is an asthma medication, using the 2023 rates would result in one pharmacist losing $248. And that's just on one drug. In other words, these contracts are designed to make it so independent pharmacists can no longer accept Express Scripts customers without losing money. Of course, CVS, Cigna, and United Health don't want independent pharmacists anyway. They're trying to run them out of business. Why? Because they're pushing customers to order medicine from their mail-order pharmacies, which brings them even high margins, because who knows who the hell's filling those things. So in India, I don't know. These mail-order pharmacies, in order to generate high margins, are often poorly run with little service and frequent mistakes. Never mind supervision. What happens to the patients? Well, back in February, the FTC opened up a docket for public comments. And we got tons of comments on here. It's freaking sick. There are hundreds of comments in the docket, and these are a drop in the bucket. You can check out the awful reviews for Accredo, a mail-order specialty pharmacy owned by Express Scripts. Who's owned by who? Cigna. People are being hurt badly and probably dying because PBMs are directing more people to their mail-order pharmacy business. If you're interested in why that's legal, it's because economists at the FTC argued in the 1980s that the practice is efficient for the big business, the monopolies. What Express is doing wouldn't matter if large PBMs didn't have market power or engage in practices to get kickbacks, because then pharmacists can negotiate on a more equal level and reject contracts that lose them money. Everything would be a lot more straightforward, and pharmacists could get paid for dispensing the medication people need at a reasonable price. But Express Scripts does have market power, and pharmacists have a really tough time saying no to lose their customers. I was wondering about that. Maybe if any of you guys are pharmacies, like what if you're losing money on the medication, what are you making money on? The stuff they buy in the store? I wonder about that. I don't know, because I think about that. If you're losing money on that, you got to be making it up on some other things. It's almost like a lost leader. I get it. It's stupid, but I'll lose $248 on this asthma pill, but I'll make $300 on something else, if that makes sense. But I don't know what that would be. Selling milk? For now, it seems like, all right, let's see. All right, right here. For now, it seems like Express Scripts is the only PBM taking this approach, where they're fighting back against Sniffy Joe. But if the other two dominant PBMs fall along, and I expect they will, then independent pharmacies will basically no longer be able to accept Medicare prescription drug plans. And that's a large chunk of their business. A lot of people will then be forced to get their medicine through the mail. When they get the order wrong, it's not fun when you're ordering clothes. It can be deadly if you're ordering medicine. That's nuts. I want to show you this one thing here. Right here. Independent pharmacy owner here, this guy, Gon Diesel. We received this insulting contract last week and immediately opted out of it. Most contracts the past few years have been insulting, but this one took the cake. We will lose customers because of this, but that means we'll be here for those who see value in our pharmacy. Most pharmacy owners are short-sighted and afraid to draw a line in the sand. They end up filling more scripts for less and eventually burn themselves out or end up offering the same crappy service as the other large chains. Any owner that takes this plan is a whore to the pharmacy benefit managers and views themselves only as dispensing medicine. If we are seen as a dispensing machine of medicine, then we will be replaced by one at some point. Yeah, 100%. That's my business too. If you're seen as just in managing investments, you will be, and that's it, nothing more. You will be replaced by robots, and rightly so, because you're not doing anything. Robots that just can manage investments better than you. Anyway, it's freaking evil, man. I'll put a link in the show notes. Definitely subscribe to this guy. I do want to share with you one other thing on this though, because this again, I don't know if my comment's showing up here, but right here. I know that Biden is being sucked up by world events, but he has a critical election coming up. I cannot understand why he's not sucking up every news cycle to talk about he and his FTC are taking on these issues that resonate with voters and pointing out how the other party are fighting on this. If you develop a winning strategy, then hammer it home. Exactly. I said Republicans could take this issue away from the Democrats in 2 seconds. Imagine the Republicans had the presidency and Congress back in 2017 and 18. Oh! But we needed a 60-person majority to pass the legislation. You can still fight with the FTC. You can still fight with the weapons that you have. Executive orders. What I know, actually, Trump, to his credit, was Trump. I grant you that. But Paul Ryan and the rest, freaking idiots. Of course, they are too stupid to actually want to win an election. What I'm saying. And then this guy here says right here. Right here. Hold on. I want to see if I can find it. Hold on. This guy says, this really sounds like a topic for John Oliver to take up. And then he says, Matt, you should put a bug in his ear. I said, no, because if John Oliver covered it, over half the population would take the side with Big Pharma. Why? Because Oliver is a lib, and people on my side don't want to give libs the time of the day, even when they make a good argument on occasion. So what Matt should do is put a bug in the ear of a guy like Tucker Carlson. Those people on the right can also take up the mantle and be anti-monopolist. A la Teddy Roosevelt. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, it's frustrating. All right, love to hear your thoughts. If you're a pharmacist out there, put your thoughts. Thanks now.